Okay, so welcome to this evening's conference with Le Cercle des Langues. Today we will be discussing grammar myths busted, rules you can and should break. So this evening's conference is for level B1 to B2. So for the next 25 minutes, I will present this evening's conference. For the last 5 minutes, we will have a question and answer session. So please feel free to put your questions into the chat or write them on a piece of paper so that we can have a look at them after the conference. So let's begin. So this evening's conference will have 4 parts. We'll talk about the myth of never splitting infinitives, quite exciting. Never end a sentence with a preposition. Never start a sentence with and or but. And double negatives are always wrong. So even though we learn about certain rules in grammar, we are going to look at certain exceptions and how we can break these rules. So grammar helps us communicate clearly, but not all the rules we've learned are set in stone. Some come from older traditions or formal styles that don't always match how English is used today. In this presentation, we'll explore what the rules say, where they come from, and why it's sometimes okay, even helpful, to bend them. The goal isn't to break grammar, but to use it with confidence and understanding. So let's begin. So the first one we would look at is never split infinitives. So firstly, what is an infinitive? An infinitive is the base form of a verb, and it's usually with to. Okay, so to run, to eat, to think, to imagine, to cook, to work. So a split infinitive happens when you add a word, usually an adverb, between to and the verb. So to really enjoy, to quickly leave, to completely forget. So let's see what the myth is. The myth. The old grammar rule says, don't split infinitive. So the incorrect sentence would be, he decided to quickly leave. Why? Because Latin doesn't allow it. But English isn't Latin. English allows flexibility with the word order. Why is it okay to split infinitives? We split them because sometimes it often sounds more natural and clear. For example, she wants to really try versus she really wants to try. We need to fully understand the problem, or versus we need to understand the problem fully. He promised to completely stop, or he promised to stop completely. They hope to finally finish the project, and I want to really understand the topic. Something that's also important to remember is, where am I putting the emphasis in the sentence? Where am I putting the attention? So if I say, she wants to really try, that is where your attention goes. If I say, she wants to try really, it can often change the meaning of the sentence. So when we split infinitives, it can help us put emphasis in the correct place. What are we trying to draw attention to? For example, they hope to finally finish the project, or they hope to finish the project finally. So I'm drawing attention to that verb, finally finish the project. So the listener, their attention will go to the place I am adding emphasis on. Here you have some useful adverbs. For example, really, fully, quickly, gently, totally, and completely. Let's look at some examples. I hope to actually win this. They want to quickly finish the work. We need to carefully check the answers. He decided to strongly disagree. I plan to gradually improve my skills. They try to quietly open the door. Let's look at the second myth. Never end a sentence with a preposition. So, firstly, what are prepositions? Prepositions are words that show the relationship between a noun or a pronoun and another word in the sentence. They usually indicate time, place, direction, or the way things are related. So, for example, in, on, and at will show me place. For example, I am in the house. It shows my position. I am on the couch. Where am I? Or I am at work. So they show the place. Before and after or during will show time. And to, from, with, about, of, and by show relationships. So how do they fit into sentences? We would say the book is on the table, as this is its place. The cat is under the bed, where we will find the cat. Again, a place. We met at 5 p.m. So now we are expressing time. I was born in July. Time. She ran into the room. I am expressing direction. He walked towards the exit. Again, direction. So the myth, the old rule is never end a sentence with a preposition. So wrong sentences, according to the myth, would be, what are you talking about? This is the person I was waiting for. But in real English, these are completely fine. Why is it okay? Ending a sentence with a preposition is often the most natural choice. That's the movie I told you about. Who are you going with? This is the pen I wrote with. That's the house we stayed at. And who are you waiting for? Let's check more examples. Where are you from? Who are your friends with? This is the place I dreamed about. That's the rule I don't agree with. This is the song I was listening to. She's the teacher I told you about. That's what I am interested in. Let's look at the third myth. Never start a sentence with and or but. So the myth tells us to never start a sentence with and, but, or so. This comes from writing style guides, so not grammar rules. So let's have a look at that rule. You can start a sentence with and, but, or so. You can use them especially to connect thoughts clearly. She was tired, but she kept working. He loves dogs and cats. We had no money, so we walked. So if we go back to the base rule of punctuation, a comma, virgule, a comma helps us take a pause and then continue. For example, she was tired, but she kept working. When we add a full stop, we end the thought, almost as if we are reflecting. And we start again with a new thought that either gives more emphasis and it gives us more of a, but she kept working. So it takes us away from the first thought and it allows us to continue with a completely new idea, but still slightly attached to the previous thought. So more emphasis. Why does it work? These words add flow, rhythm, and emotion. Example, she looked around, but he was gone. We waited and waited and waited. I wanted to help, so I did. He failed, but he didn't give up. So in a way, you are seeing suspense. You are seeing the rhythm, the emotion. So here are some vocabulary and easy examples. For example, with coordinating conjunctions like and, but, or, so, and yet. It was late, but he was still working. He didn't answer, so she called again. We can go now, or we can stay. They tried, and they succeeded. He wanted to leave, yet he stayed. Now we move on to something that can be quite controversial. It's the double negatives, saying that they are always wrong. So let's look a little deeper. Traditional grammar says don't use double negatives. For example, I don't know nothing. Why? Because two negatives cancel each other out. So let's compare. I don't need no help. So grammatically, this is incorrect because we say I don't need any help. She didn't say nothing. No, she didn't say anything. We haven't done nothing wrong. No, we haven't done anything wrong. He can't find nowhere to sit. He can't find anywhere to sit. So when are they okay? In informal speech, music, or for emotional effect. For example, I ain't never giving up. So that would be informal speech. It could be lyrics in a song, or it could be just you saying something with an intense emotion. You don't know nothing about me. Can't nobody stop us now? She didn't say nothing to nobody. So should we break the rules? Yes, if it makes you sound natural, clear, and expressive, because sometimes you say it in a joke. I didn't do nothing. It's a joke, or it's a light way of bringing an ambience to the conversation. But know if you are writing formally, so essays, job applications. The key is to know the difference between the real grammar and the old myths, so that you know when to apply the myth, or when to apply what we see as the myth, or when to apply the correct grammar. So knowing the difference between the two gives you the power to choose. So we need to know that language can change. English is alive and it evolves constantly. Text used to be a noun. Now it's also a verb. So before we would say, I will send you a text message. And now we say, no, I am texting them now. Emojis and internet slang are part of how we write. Maybe it's just important to remember that in informal writing, it needs to still be quite conventional. Double negatives are powerful in lyrics and stories. So some final tips that we can share are: learn the standard rules. Know which rules are myths. So in that way, you know when you are able to use the difference. Use your ear. What sounds natural? Choose your tone. Will it be something formal or will it be something informal? And break the rules when it helps your message. So in conclusion, language is not a cage, it's a canvas. The old grammar myths might sound official, but they don't always fit the way people actually talk. Breaking these so-called rules isn't about being careless. It's about being real. When you know the why, you can choose the how. So go ahead, split that infinitive, end with a preposition, double up on the negatives if the mood is right. Speak like yourself. That's where the real power is. So thank you everybody for joining me for this evening's conference. I hope it helped in understanding how you can make language your own. If you have any questions or any comments you would like to make, please unmute your microphone.